can't do it.
Yep. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here today on this Friday, this beautiful Friday. It is our pleasure to have Dr. Javed here today to talk about Indian culture and her presentation titled Indian Immigrants in the Metro Detroit Area, a Socio-Cultural Profile. I want to give you all a little biography of Dr. Javed before we get started. She is a sociologist and documentarian. Her research have been in social transformation of minorities and ethnicity that focuses on the interplay of faith, race, and culture, and reformation of one's social identity. Her first film, Essential Arrival, in the 21st Century of Indian Immigrants, premiered in East Lansing Film Festival, and she has currently finished her fourth film, Indian Christians in America, and it will be showing in festivals and also your local libraries in January, I believe. So without further ado, I want to hand it all over to Dr. Javed.
Thank you for inviting me to do this cultural awareness presentation. And let's see how I come across in knowing what you're looking for. So I'll do my best to meet your questions and answers. So to look at this group that you call Indian immigrants, who later turned into Indian Americans in our Metro Detroit area, and of course, in the United States. They are a little different from what the immigrant story has been for years. They have been called or referred to as the Golden Diaspora by Time magazine way back in 2012. So yes, they happen to be the latest elements of in American society with the most spectacular success story. So do you know what they themselves call as a group? They refer to themselves as Desis. D-E-S-I-S, Desis, which means people from the old country. Des means our home country. Desis means the group of we from the home country. So Desis is an inclusive term of all those coming from the geographic area of the Indian subcontinent, which includes Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, everything. So to start giving you a picture as to how they emerge into our society here, most of them come as international students. To give you an idea of how many of them are here, out of a total population of international students in 2022, 21% of them were from India. So 21% is a huge number. And I'm not saying Asia, I'm saying India. Now, why do you refer to them as Indians? And then we have a confusion with our existing concept of Indians. Well, they come from the country called India and they're Indians, but then there is always a known concept of Indian population, which refers to Native Americans around here. Well, you know that discovery of America was an accident. I hope many more accidents happen like this and we grow in terms of how we've grown in finding the world of opportunities. So Christopher Columbus had no idea where he was. When he landed in Bahamas, he thought he reached India. And when he looked around, the people then were Indian to him. And since they had a different skin tone, he called them Red Indians. And these are all Indians. So we don't call them anymore Red Indians, but yes, normally Indians are referred to, the term Indian is referred to people, the native people in the United States. So yes, there is a confusion about it. Now here I would like to share a personal story. Looking at me, all of you might have guessed that yes, I am from India. I am an insider of the group that I'm talking about. Started as an Indian immigrant, and now I am an American citizen, and I call myself an Indian American. So I moved way back in 1994. Me, my husband, and two little kids, 8 and 9. We settled here, and initially we had never thought that we would come to America or settle here, but my husband was here for a conference and he got a job offered. So we all joined him. Now, these young children started going to school in the September of 1994. So this is Detroit of 1994, around Wayne State campus. That's the time when Detroit public schools are going down the road. And coming from India, our dream was to give them the best education. And we tried to find a private Episcopalian school. So when they went to school, my kids looked neither white nor black nor Hispanic, and there wasn't any other children looking like them. So one of their teachers said, "What culture are you from?" They wanted to know more about their identity, and my children said, "We are Indians." The teacher said, "What tribe?" So this shows how few of Indians from the Indian subcontinent were around this area. And that was kind of a shocking response from my kids. And they came home, we talked about that. Well, it was taken care of. A month later, my children come back with the same kind of a situation. They said, "Mom, there's another teacher who asked us the same question. And this time we said we are Indian American. No, we are Asian Indians. And the teacher goes, "Okay, one parent is Asian and the other parent is Indian." So yes, it was a question of identity. And that was the time when I kind of made a determination in my mind, if I could ever do this, I would do something to promote cultural understanding about different cultures, including Indian culture. So that was a quick firsthand experience that I went through. Now, if you look around, yes, most Americans at that time did not know much about other populations around them. And of course, Indians were a part of those other populations. They became more aware of countries like India when outsourcing and offshoring started in mid 90s and continued till the mid 2000s. So that's when this became more, of something that people would know about. So yes, there is a little Americocentricity in knowing different people who are coming around. But you know what? If you are the reference nation which the world looks up to and would like to be like, then it would be not you finding out about other people. It would be other people trying to find out more about you as a country. So that's normal, that's natural. Now, so much about the background. These are some of the things you know that America is a nation of immigrants. Different waves, different influxes of populations came here around different times from different countries under different circumstances and made different contributions. And America as a society is used to European immigrants joining our society every now and then. So up till 1965, people of color, especially from Asia and Africa, or for that matter, Southern and Eastern Europeans were also not allowed. They were not seen quite white. So there were quota systems and there was very restricted quotas available. With that historical background, there were very few Indian immigrants in our Metro Detroit area and the whole country because they did not have the visa opportunity. Come 1965, things changed, and we changed our immigration policy and we diversified the pool of immigrants, and that's when more Indians started coming in. Yes. Now, you'll find out in this presentation with that historical background who Indian immigrants are. What is a profile of Indian immigrants? Since this is a sociological presentation and I'm trying to take you into as close to the theoretical framework in the layman's language, well, I gave you how the immigration changed colors in terms of bringing diverse population. Now, have you ever given it a thought before I proceed further with the details of this? Why at all we let people immigrate from other countries? This applies to all immigrants. This is a demographic reality about our nation that we are growing to be a nation of old people. And we need people that are younger, and younger people in the current times are more in continents of Asia and Africa. And Asia alone has two overpopulous countries, India and China. They have a ton of manpower trained, ready to come join our manpower. And our issue is there are more people retiring than we have the younger folks to fill in their jobs. So we need young people. Our choice, as usual, is to invite immigrants from Europe, but European immigrants do not look at immigration the same way their past generations had. So Europe has been through tremendous economic growth and development, and there are job opportunities, and they're doing great now. And they would not like to venture moving into a new society, making cultural adjustments when they're happy in their own home. On the other hand, countries like India and China would love to immigrate. United States need younger populations. Yes, they have younger manpower, trained and ready. Now, between these two countries, India has an upper hand because India is an English-speaking country. So that's a plus factor for inviting Indian immigrants. And that too, the cost of inviting this trained labor is way less than it would have been to bring immigrants who are that educated from Europe. So this is one of the sociological and demographic reasons for immigration in general. And I told you why Indians, this is the situation. By the way, before I go further, if I ask you, how much does it cost to raise a child, let's say in the Metro Detroit area in Michigan? Can anybody guess? This would be between birth and 18 years.
And you all can answer in the chat too. Dr.
Yes.
Javed, repeat the question.
What would be the cost of raising a child in Michigan from birth to 18 years? That's when they get done with high school. Yes. No idea.
I'm waiting for answers in the chat. I don't
Yeah.
have children. I'm not sure. I think someone has an answer in the queue. $100,000. Someone said 100,000.
You're not that much off. It costs 240,000
Wow.
to raise a child from birth to 18 years. And this is a cost our society bears for each child born in our society. Now, when you say 18 years, these children are able to work, but they do not have all the technological know-how to be skilled laborers. So they need to go to school, they need, finish at least their graduate or undergraduate or graduate degrees before they come out and join the high-tech jobs that we generate as the first world country. So that's an added cost. Immigrating a trained person saves all that cost. And they come here, if you offer them a job and a job visa, they'll take the job, start paying the taxes from the first paycheck. So it is a win-win situation to invite immigrants to take over the job, especially in given situation where there is a declining population growth. Okay. Now, different kinds of visas. I would give you a brief understanding. So I said the largest number of Indian immigrants in the Metro Detroit area are students, and they're 21% of our total international student population. Who else comes to United States, and especially to the Metro Detroit area? When I say Metro Detroit area, you have the big three, the hospitals. Its major attraction is engineers, IT, doctors. So these are all highly trained professionals, all white collar workers. So after student visa, these people are coming on job visas. Then a lot of them come as entrepreneurs. So they have the capital and they would like to open up new industries, new factories, and employ local people. So that's another thing. And then there can be people coming on tourist visa, family-based visa. These are different visas. So when I talk about immigrants and visas, I am obviously emphasizing all legal immigrants. I cannot say much about illegal immigrants. Not that they're not there, they might be there. I have no idea who they are, no records where they are, what they do. So, illegal immigrants, as it is a no-no. So, I'm not making any explanation about who they are and where they are and what they do. I have no way to track. My research has tracked all legal immigrants here. So these are the major areas which show that this is a manpower joining our stream of white collar workers. Now, there are certain things automatically implied that I have put forward. One is they're all educated or looking to get the education. And they are ready to start work. They do not have the expenses of investing in themselves to grow. Now, language skills could be a problem. Yes, polishing those. And, as I said, India has an edge over that problem because most of them have been English speaking way back in India as well. So that's out of question. So a profile is that of a white collared workers. Now, have you ever questioned yourself, why do we get international students in such large numbers? Any guess would do. Try that. No? International students.
Wait,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Repeat the question one more time.
Why do we let so many international students come to our country?
That's a good question. We have higher tuition as a answer.
Yes, you're right. You go from here to another state, you pay out of state tuition. When these people are coming from other countries, yes, they pay 3 times more than the normal tuition. So that's one of the reasons. And these international students are mostly in upper level courses. They would not come here to pay 3 times the tuition for an undergraduate or a high school course, right? So they are already into that college bound path and they come here to get the higher education. Now, after they get the education, do we not have the option of having them go back? Or why don't we make them go back? Or why are they allowed to stay here? I'm sure those questions might have crossed your mind.
Great question.
In fact, those of you who are familiar with Global Detroit, there are programs that would work on retention of these graduates. Even if they want to go, we would like, no, please don't go, stay here and work in our society.
Someone said we can pay them less. That's why.
No, you will not be able to pay them less because they have their own education and the American degree. The biggest threat is if these people stay here, they launch their research, entrepreneurial, and business ventures in our own society, giving opportunities for local population to work and benefit from it. If you let them go, which has happened in many cases, if they don't want to stay, you cannot make them stay. They go back, they open our competitors in wherever Asian country they're going back. We don't want that. We don't want that. Please don't do that. And if you look at the statistics from Silicon Valley in California, most of the companies have been started by Asian immigrants, and especially Indian immigrants. See, I've been an immigrant. The drive with which an immigrant lands here is way different than the drive a normal person born and raised here has to be successful. And coming from an overpopulous nation where there is no question of second chance, we make our bet, we meaning the immigrant voice is saying, you should make your best not to fail. That's the society they've known for. So if you can survive that competition there, you would thrive in a society like America. So what you have to offer here is way much for them to grow, which for the normal person might not be that much, because, growing up in an affluent country, we have different sets of expectations, maybe way higher sets of expectations. We have certain entitlements. We are the tax-paying citizens of United States. Therefore, A, B, and C should be given to us. Now, coming from that overpopulated world, you can be successful if you work. All that is we need is this. And if that's the guarantee, we'll work our best to get the best results. So this is a psyche with which they come here and with which they succeed. Now, success of the immigrants is not just the success of those immigrant families. When they take up high-ranking jobs, as I said, most of them come to work in these big three or the hospitals or things like that. They're making the top dollar. They're not getting paid less. You cannot do that for professional immigrants. So when they make the top dollar, they pay the top tax. And high-paying citizens of any society contribute more in the growth and development of that society. That's why when they issue the visas, they make sure that they are coming on a certain level of employment. If they want to come in and do odd jobs or work for a restaurant, no, they don't get the visa. Now, they might work in these spheres temporarily while they are students. They're allowed to work 20 hours and pay taxes on what they make to pay the tuition. They might do it for a few years, 2-3 years. They graduate, done with it, they take a job. There is no student loan because they entered loan-free. Their march to growth and development is way faster because they take their whole paycheck home. They do not pay the loans, which homegrown graduates have a liability to. Can anybody guess what is the percentage of immigrants, Indian immigrants coming to Michigan in terms of one college degree? How many of them have at least one college degree? And also, what is the percentage of college education in our state of Michigan?
So the first question is the percentage of Indian immigrants with at least one college degree. 80%. We have 80% for, I think that's the first question of. And then the other question, if y'all want to answer, the percentage of people with college degrees in Detroit or Metro Detroit area.
Yeah. We have all these universities. I'll do that for you. It's 23%.
20, yep, someone said 20%.
So you are close. It's not quite 80, it's 73%, but 75%. And yes, you're pretty close. So that is the level of higher education among people who are born and raised here. So that's why this edge is seen. Now, this is reflected in their lifestyle, in their education, in most things they do as citizens. Now, has it ever been a question that we've been here generations, these people, they just came here, they started in Detroit, now they have a huge house and they're successful, their children are successful. This runs through the mind of many local people. How does that happen? See, these are the reasons for that. If you come here educated, you have saved yourself a lot of hassle. If you can join the white collar jobs that are being generated, America is generating more white collar jobs than ever before. Having more white collar jobs is the key to be the world leader for America. And these are mostly science and math jobs, STEM courses. I also have a very surprising reality that United States is one of the very few countries that has the largest number of social science graduates. For some reason, I'm not saying science and math is not popular, but our largest number of graduates are in social science. Well, I am myself a social science person. If you want to study social science and stop at one college degree, no, you would not be fitting in the job market today. So these are some of the things that put them at the edge of many other immigrants coming in today. Now, I think I would give you a chance to tell me so far, how are you absorbing this and which way should I take my presentation based on what you'd like to hear more from me?
I actually have a lot of questions, but I'm trying to figure out how to formulate them. You talked about this notion of, white collar jobs are growing. The Indian populations are getting white collar jobs, STEM jobs in the STEM field. Can you speak a little bit to not just social class, but when we're talking about what neighborhoods, right, you want to send your children to, this idea of where, when I'm coming into the United States or Metro Detroit area, where do I want to live, right? And how do we choose where we want to live based on that? And this idea of fitting in, right, different cultures. So I just want to talk about that.
See, I could drive my direction into what you're looking for. That's why I stopped. I don't want to keep going with what I have in mind. Now, areas to live in. We have a very unique characteristic when it comes to social life and neighborhoods. Our neighborhoods are not just places where people live. Our neighborhoods have personalities, depending on who lives in them. Which means you just give somebody your address for something, they have vague with the V, my V's and W's are messed up, sorry, vaguely figured out what your social class is, what your cultural affiliation could be, some kind of an ethnic profile. So these are some of the things you cannot hide if you just give somebody your address. That's why, it's so obvious. People in Detroit have the hardest time to get car insurances. If they get that, they're so expensive. Because that's a stereotype that these neighborhoods have more liability based on where they are. So your identity in terms of class, race, and ethnicity is just flashed by your address, right?
Okay, so speaking of that, that's what I want to ask about specifically, right? So if let's say you're moving here in 1990s, but beyond the 90s, right? Are we looking as, someone who's Indian, are you looking to for a diverse, are you looking for a diverse neighborhood? Are you looking for a neighborhood with mostly white people? I mean, like, or what are we looking for? I know about the job and the economics, but and social mobility, but
Okay. So when I moved in here, I had heard about Detroit at its peak. And
Mhm.
I entered Detroit in the 90s when it was heading into complete deindustrialization. So that in itself was a shock. So I told you that my kids would go to this private school, which was right at the intersection of Warren and Woodward. So the teachers would come there and they were confused about why my kids had no issues with English, or how could they be so good in education. And they said, oh, you are in this neighborhood, maybe you should move out to the suburbs. The idea of moving out to the suburbs is you should have that social class, that kind of money, even to rent out, leave aside, buy there. And it was hard for me. That school was still sixth grade, so we had to make decisions. And the suggestion that came to me, because I'm here last 6 months, I have no idea, were to move out to Livonia. Livonia in mid-90s was great. Now, I have nothing against any culture or suburb or anything. But I went there, I would go to the library, I'll look around. Yes, it was a great place, but those people did not figure out how we would fit in as people of color, because we were that odd family. You are brown people, you have the education, and you are in good jobs. Me and my husband both entered the society with a PhD, and we got the jobs accordingly. So, yes. Now, but you're not white. And at that time, we are used to suburbs being pink. This diversity had not started taking, you know, clear forms and shapes. Today, most of these neighborhoods do have a certain section of people who are not white. So then I would go there, and I'm not feeling that it's great, but it's not for everyone. Where would I go? So I did not want to go very far because I was teaching at Wayne State. We said, okay, Dearborn has public schools, and they said they're good public schools. Because my emphasis was I would put my kids into public schools so that the school could fill in most of the things I can't give them as societal experience. That was a big challenge. Now, going to Dearborn was another challenge because you're not white, you're not black, your names sound Arabic, you say you're not Arabic. Who are you? So, again, a question. Now, their expectations from my children were not what I wanted them to be because they thought these are just moved in immigrants. Whatever they do, they said, you would make it to college. And I'm like, hold on. You just want my kid to make it to college? When their grandmothers way back in India have been college graduates. That's too low of an expectation. So I was pushed to Canton. I did not choose Canton. But Canton had at least 15% of Indian population. I know the teachers would challenge my kids according to my class. See, I might sound a little arrogant, but I'm not being that. See, my expectations were if we could do this in this overpopulous country, you should do a lot better. So when you talk about race, ethnicity, and the adjustments, my lens of looking at society was not that because I did not know. I would be sticking out as a brown family to the longest time. So these are the things you learn as you move in. And Canton schools were a wonderful experience because the educational park has about 6,000 students, and they put the kids on toes. They challenged them, and that's what made my kids successful. I am really happy. So now when I look back, do I want to move back somewhere? No, I have all my friends here. I'm used to this. So most immigrants did not at that time, I should say, make a choice. Now there are things more elaborate. When I do these diversity trainings, I can tell you what goes in which neighborhood and why. Because now I know the personalities of those neighborhoods. But then if you ask me for my own choice, these are the circumstances that pushed me from Detroit to Canton. And that's home today for last 25 years.
Also, if y'all have thank you so much for that too. And if y'all have other questions, put them in the chat. It says, can she talk a little bit about how education in India prepares students to excellence in the US?
See, the culture in that country is about knowledge. They value knowledge, and they see knowledge as a reliable source of upward mobility. And given their scenario, they did not have at that time a lot of opportunities to work and make money. If you're not educated, you cannot make much money. And also, that society is a society that looks at deferred gratification. Sacrifice today. Put things in place for tomorrow. Because their cultural focus is joy. What's that? Everybody has that cultural focus. No. There's a difference between pleasure, happiness, and joy. If you come from affluent societies, you can do many things for temporary pleasure, some things for happiness, and still you can afford to spend all that. This is a one-time opportunity. You cannot afford to mess it that way. So you're always working hard. So this is part of a psyche. And their curriculum is more STEM-based. It's not that you don't have social science graduates. I am here sitting, my PhD is in sociology. But if you start late, you get the latest. So for the longest time, education was not available to everybody. But now when they started educating, mass education is being provided, they would take the latest trends. Latest trends in the 21st century are a focus on science and math, with where we are headed. Now, we had educational way of acquiring education for the longest time, and that was the time of social science education. And our kids got into that comfort zone. Science and math is hard. No, nothing is hard. If that's the requirement of the labor market, you need to get up and prepare yourself. So much emphasis of the social circumstances that psychologically makes them work hard and be successful is more of a part of their educational success than nothing can stimulate you to absorb that spirit to be successful. Yes, then the curriculum. And curriculums are very competitive.
Okay, so I have two questions kind of based on what you just said. One being, can you talk a little bit about like the model minority myth and how that pertains to um, um, Indian Americans, and then also any stereotypes too that you would like to talk about?
I asked my audience, what are the myths they have? They're shy. And they're like, and me being Indian, it's worse. You have your speaker who's Indian and she's asking you to open up. You're like, and stereotypes, nobody responds. So this idea of ideal minority, I don't know if that's an ideal minority, but their economic success, their overall success makes people feel that that is, see, let me tell you this. If you look at the characteristics of Indians as people and their families, these are hand-picked immigrants from wherever they're coming in. So two-parent families. Both parents are highly educated, at least graduate degrees. And then they are raising kids. They were ambitious to get up till here, and they would raise kids who would do or excel them. Now, is that not true if you have two educated parents with graduate degrees, if they are white, black, Hispanic, or Native American? I would say the results would be pretty close in that class of that population. So the strange thing is, all Indians, most of them come in that class, and you see it's an Indian trait that makes them a model minority. I completely disagree sociologically. It's the education class income factor. And yes, of course, there's another myth that Indians do not have divorces, or their marriages are strong, or they never break. No, Indians here have way much higher rate of divorce than they would have in India, the stresses and strains of immigration. But yes, you're right, there are more two-parent homes. Now, if you have two-parent homes in white, black, Hispanic, Asian Americans, or whoever, or Native Americans, the results would be the same. So I would not like my community to take all the credit that it's being given. And these are facts. Children need these things. Children need these supports. And if parents are in that position to provide, yes, it makes them a model minority. Now, the middle class, the working class, the lower class in India struggles the same way. And they have their own problems. But the thing is, you don't see them here, because they would not come to do the kind of jobs they're doing. Therefore, they're not here, and you don't see them. Another thing is, all Indians are smart. No, there are dumb people born everywhere, and dumb people are born in India too. But then those dumb people do not make it to United States. If they're coming halfway around the globe to take these jobs, they better have those degrees and the intellect to fit in those degrees. So sociologically, this is one of the things. Another thing is, yes, there are some cultural values. As I said, pleasure, happiness, and joy. They would always aim at joy and make sacrifices for today. And it begins in all spheres. So, yes, parents would sacrifice for their children. All these kids who are here with higher degrees in our white collar job here were educated by not so affluent parents in India. They sacrificed to get these kids the top education. And do you know they're left behind alone? Who cares for them in their old age? They do not have old age programs like you have in the United States. So those are the silent sufferers. And when they come here, there's so much of a cultural difference. The societies, if you are in your 70s, 80s, you don't want to make new changes. So visit to United States is not fun. It's a torture adjusting to weather, food, everything. And then you have two busy, successful kids struggling with their jobs, and they do not have much time for you. So Indians are about family sacrifice. And that's why, yes, they have a lot of respect to family values. Now, Indian parents who are raising their kids here would do everything possible to keep their kids in lowest student loan debts, would pay for their tuitions.
So,
Why?
oh, yeah, sorry.
Why? That's what they've seen. If mom and dad have sacrificed for me, their idea is if you don't go to work and focus on your education, you would do much better than finding time for both school and work.
Mhm.
But they make sure that you're successful. If you're just fooling around, they would not entertain that. So, yes. Anything else? I would take,
Yes.
I have a list, but I won't go by my list. I'll take yours. Yeah.
So I have and again, if y'all have other questions as we're wrapping up, um you talked a little bit about like the cultural differences. I just want you to get into it. You named weather, right, and food, but other cultural differences. You said like, the culture shock. What does that look like and how is it different,
It's not an easy experience to not to be acknowledged right at the face that you are a person of color and you're highly educated. And especially for a woman like me, I am a woman of color and accent. The first thing I come across is that Indian lady. Well, I am an Indian lady and I'm proud of that, but I have a professional standing. You first see me through that lens, and I cannot force everybody to come to my class and figure out who I am. So it automatically sends a message what we had for people of color or women of color. Number one, they're docile. They would not have a voice. I'm very soft spoken in the interaction. I just don't want to be pushy. But that doesn't mean I am docile. I have a style of making my presence felt and a very powerful style. Then the next thing is it's very much seen as being reflected in arranged marriages. The idea of arranged marriage is a strange idea that most Americans have. One fine day, your parents would go out and catch somebody and bring him here, and you will be made to marry that person. No, it doesn't happen that way. But yes, there is an involvement. If parents are so involved in your life, they want to make sure you make the right choices. And then in that choices, you tell them what you want, and they'll find more than one people or help you find more than one people. And you go back and forth, and the two of you would, as parents and the kid, work to get that. Now, this in no way suggests that women have no voice and they'll marry anybody their father brings in. No, most of these women here are professionals. And professionalism in itself gives you the independence to think. So they are soft spoken, but they go by the cultural idea of, this is the head, but the head rests on the neck and it turns where the neck turns, right? See, the head is dependent on the neck. The head cannot do anything by itself. So they have that control and grip in their family affairs, but you cannot see them that much. So these are some of the myths that people have, and sometimes women don't fit into it. I don't know what other myths you have. I can touch on them. Feel free. This is a learning exercise, so there's no judgment involved in this.
Yes. Does anyone else have anything? Also, yeah, thank you so much for that context too, with talking about arranged marriages and like the stereotypes with that, because it's a lot of, I don't know, I want to say like not even just myths surrounding it, but a lot of like media attention too that goes around of it, and television and all those things that go on, and different perceptions about a culture's reality. So I thank you for that.
And
um
each concept has its own understanding.
mhm,
Arranged marriages in the United States could be oppressive. But there, it's the parents' concern and involvement. And if they're putting so much out of their life into you as a person to be successful, they want to make sure who you are ending up with to start your own life. See, even here, I've found that people who have a lot of money or inheritance, they want to make sure their kids don't get hooked in with the wrong partner.
Right.
So that's a very natural concern, but it's depicted this way because they want more ratings. So television shows run on that. I think there is a does younger generation can you read that?
Does the younger generation, our Gen Z, also see the term desis as appropriate?
Yeah, they call them that's a Indian name for people from the subcontinent. So they call themselves that
Mhm.
because they see that people from our back home. And sometimes it's hardest for me as a presenter to reconstruct how these immigrants feel, because most people inviting me to their lecture have never been immigrants themselves. So I have to build that picture, and it's hard. I try, but I don't know.
And you're doing a great job. So it's 1 o'clock now. I know we started a couple of minutes late, but I want to make sure everyone got their questions and everything out before we wrap up. Um,
Yep, I don't see any other questions in the Q&A or chat, but thank you so much, Dr. Javed. It's really wonderful.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, so I think we'll end here, but thank you so much, Dr. Javed. Thank you all so much for attending this cultural awareness presentation. And I really look forward to actually watching that fourth film, and we will also keep in touch. And for all of you, this screen recording will be available on the Metro Parks website, and also I will also let you know of any other film screenings, Rochester, you said, and I'll let you all know when that will be made available. So thank you.
Yeah, and if you ever choose to have film screenings,
Yep, that's also a good
yeah,
point
look
too.
into it. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. All right. Thank you all. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank